let's get downstairs, let's get in, let's start talking and shopping. It's Bass Pro Shop's annual ice event. Mother Nature has finally given us safe ice. It's our first ice trip of the year, and we're going to show you some tips, tricks, and techniques of how you can catch these fish on first ice. We got a little bit of a warm-up happening right now. It's a balmy 37 degrees in Chicagoland. Those fish are going to be up on some shallow flats. So we're going to show you how we can catch fish when we get a warm-up under the ice on Spring Lake in Aurora. And today we're going to get a little weird out on the ice. We're trying something we've never actually personally done before. We are going to attempt carp through the ice. That's all this week on Tony's Spot On Fishing. Hey everybody, welcome into this week's episode of Tony's Spot On Fishing. I'm your host, Tony Krizek, and this week we have a special treat for you. We're going to do a mid-season, a mid-ice season recap. We're going to show you all the places we've been, some of the highlights, the fish caught, the tricks, tips, and techniques used to catch all these fish through the ice. So we're going to show you all that. And we have a very, very special treat for you towards the end of the program. We actually have a couple new segments that we've gone out and filmed for you. We're going to be showing you those a little later on, so stay tuned. That'll be coming up, more great new footage from the ice a little later on. That's all this week on Tony's Spot On Fishing.
If you're looking for something a little bit lighter, we do have at the Bass Pro Shops here, we've got the Scout Thermal, which is a one-man shelter, which I personally use myself. It's plenty of room for even big guys like myself and you, where we can get fishable area.
Oh yeah. Little bluegill there. These ponds are nice in the fact that you can catch all kinds of panfish in them. A lot of these ponds have bluegills, crappies. Some may even have some smaller perch. That's just a little guy. We're going to go ahead and get him back. You're noticing that there's some various coloration changes to the ice. And that's because we are starting to slowly lose some of that ice surface now. The snow is gone, and we're getting to the part where the ice is starting to melt. Now there's still good, solid ice there.
We're going to be trying something new on Tony's Spot On Fishing. So today I am going to chum the waters. One full can of corn down the hole, can of juice from the can of corn. Hopefully by tomorrow we'll have carp in the area and we'll be ice fishing for carp.
This, you have two hands holding it at all times. The torque of the drill actually is taken and distributed through the shaft. We actually designed it to where the shaft of the drill, you can remove the chuck, put the shaft onto your drill, and this shaft actually attaches through a bearing. This bearing system now takes all of that pressure.
Sure.
So anytime you might be going and you might hit some ice like this, that would just damage any drill. They're not made for that.
Right.
In this case, we have the bearing in here, and this pillow block bearing actually takes all of that force.
That's perfect. A lot of guys always ask me what I like to run, if I run spikes or do I run wax worms, and The answer is both. Early on in the ice season, I generally seem to have better success with a waxworm. It's got a little bigger profile to it. We just hook it right through the tail. You can see this particular plastic I got has a little teaser tail too. So when that's in the water, it's going to give me some nice undulation to it. And just gives us a little bit bigger profile. Helps bring those fish in. You know, your bigger panfish and even some of your bass will even come up on a bait like this. But we just hook it single right through the tail. This way we get a lot of motion to it. So it's just nice light pressure to just hold it in place, and then we can go ahead and start drilling. And we come all the way through. And what I like to do is just go ahead with my boot and push that slush out of the way, and we can just use that auger to kind of go right back down and just kind of clean the hole out to get all that slush out. Now we got a nice, clean, perfect hole. My drag is backed almost all the way off, so I'll actually hear that reel start screaming when a carp picks this one up, and I'll know to run to my jig rod and grab it. This one is in about 6 feet of water, coming in a little bit shallower. Now the few bites we've had this morning have come nearer the bottom, just in that 6-inch to 10-inch range, and there we're getting a bite. There we go. You see, it was just a nice, easy lift up. There's a little better bluegill. I'll catch you. There we go. Oh, nicer bluegill there. There we go. Nice little bluegill. There we go. A little better gill there. Right in the corner of the mouth. Pretty little guys. What do we got here? Oh my goodness. Now we're going the right direction. That's another nice one. Yeah. Boy, that's pretty colorings too. They're getting that orange, little golden green mixture. They sure are beautiful. Not melting. Now we have lost all of our snow, so if this warm weather keeps up, oh, there we go. If this warmer weather keeps up, then we're going to eventually start losing layers of ice. You will gain some back in the overnight hours because it does drop below freezing. But you know, you gotta just keep checking. Go out just a little bit at a time. Drill some test holes as you're doing it. Thank goodness I had my spring bobber on that guy, because boy, he just sucked it in. You never know. And the bite will change throughout the day. There's times it'll be this real subtle bites where they're just sucking a bait in, and then there's times that they'll crush a bait. Another little bluegill. Boy, that one. It kind of has some cool colorings to it. It has a little more purple here. Not really getting the orange breast like some of them will start getting. It's kind of interesting to see how they'll, actually it kind of looks like he's been chewed on a little bit right there. Probably escaped the jaws of a bass. His scales are a little messed up right in this area. Don't be afraid to come up a foot off the bottom, sometimes even 2 feet, even though you're in 6 feet of water on these flats. And if our cameraman would pan around, you can see we are not far off the shore at all. So honestly, this is the one nice part about coming out this time of year, or on days like this, I should say, is what I meant to say, and bring the kids. You don't have to venture very far on the ice. There we go. They're definitely all fun, no doubt about it. And what I actually did, since that warmouth decided to take my plastic with them, I actually went to a little demon jig, and just to give it that little bit bigger profile on a bait like this. Go. Oh yeah. All right, warmouth. These guys are fun. I'll tell you what, these warmouths, they fight hard. They kind of look like a bluegill. They're similar to it, but if you see, if I can get him to open his mouth, he's not really happy with me right now. Come on. But he's got that real big mouth to him. Much bigger than a regular bluegill would have. But they're really cool. They fight really hard. And really cool looking fish.
Oh, Timbo! Timbo!
All right. First flag went off here. Unfortunately, nobody on the end of the line there. There we go. Oh, not quite the bass we were looking for. Hopefully that those will get a little bit bigger than that. So that's the best way to use these hand waggers. It'll keep you from dulling blades super quick. You'll get a couple seasons out of them. 1 solid season if you're out a lot. 2 if you don't go too often. Just a nice little helpful trick for you guys. There we go. Oh, nice little bass. There we go, first one on the ice today. Not very big, but you know what? That's a good start. First one of the day. Get her right back in. Oh yeah. She's there. There we go. Oh yeah, come here, girl. Just nice and easy up through the hole when she wants to run. Notice I'll just let that line slide right through my hand. Oh yeah, come here. There we go. Hand-to-hand combat fishing for these bass on tip-ups. This is so much fun. You know, it's always fun to catch them on a conventional rod and reel, but when you can come out here and do them on a tip-ups, go hand-to-hand on them, they're just fun. You know, anytime you see that flag fly up, man, it just gets your heart racing. It's awesome. That's spot-on fishing right there. Let's get this fish right on back. Oop, come on. Let go of my thumb. And they swim off just fine. Just like in open water, only a little harder. And now here is that special treat we told you about. This is some new footage that we shot a little earlier this ice season. Now, we strive and pride ourselves on our honesty with our viewers. And what you're gonna see in these next few segments is kind of what happens when things just don't go right for us. We have literally one day a week, maybe 2 to film our shows. And when plan A doesn't work, we're usually scrambling for plan B. So sit back, relax, and enjoy these new clips when things don't always go right. And we're gonna start you off downtown Chicago, Navy Pier. We're going perch fishing. January 1st, we decided there was no better way to start the new year than to go fishing. And we actually took in a request from one of our viewers on this particular trip. They wanted to see some of the action for the perch down at Navy Pier in the city, down in Chicago. And let me tell you, it was a cold, cold day down there at the pier. It was at that particular point, I think this is probably about the coldest day of the year we had thus far at the time of filming. But we wanted to go down and give it a shot nonetheless, and we figured no better way to start the year off. Strong northwest winds were just howling. We were trying our best to stay out of the wind, and we were in a somewhat protected area right here, but the wind was just so bad and brutally cold. I mean, there just wasn't much we could do. We couldn't keep our jigs in place, and it was just miserable weather-wise. I mean, it was like your eyeballs were freezing out there. But we still gave it our best shot. I think we actually spent about an hour, 2 hours tops out on the pier, fishing the north side of the pier like that, just trying to stay out of the wind and try to produce a few bites on these perch. I was running a little ice rod with an ice jig, trying to go straight down, downsized and vertical. My wife was with me as well. She was just running a smaller jig, and also our editor Mike was with jigging them up as well.
What's anything out here?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yep.
When you figure about June?
What's that?
Figure about June to come in?
Oh no, they're here now.
They're here now?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to get anything?
No.
Although from a production standpoint, this was probably our biggest undertaking with aerial shots for the show. We actually had our camera crews run up to the top of the parking garage on the pier to attempt some awesome aerial views, and we were just praying in the high winds that our cameraman didn't fall. And it was time to leave the pier. We were heading for new waters, back to the truck, and here we are. Oh my goodness, we are lakeside at Burnham. Oh, there was my one bite for the day, and that was that. Fishing right near the planetarium, running jigs and shrimp, waxies, minnows.
Oh yeah. Got a nice zebra mussel chew going. Oh yeah.
And all we could show was a zebra mussel. Yep, all that time on the water for one zebra mussel. Boy, what a day. Mike, our editor, was out there with us, and that was it. That one bite that we missed over near the planetarium and the shed aquarium there, lakeside at Burnham, and that zebra mussel. So anybody that wants to think that we go out and just catch fish nonstop, it doesn't happen that way. We do actually have to work for it. We have bad days on the water just like anybody else. So the truth be told, it's not always golden every time we go out there. So there's times we have to work for it. Speaking of working for it, that leads us to our next segment. We're actually going back into the city one more time, this time through the ice. We had about 7 or 8 inches down at Diversey Harbor, and we're perch fishing and even trying for some browns and steelies through the ice as well at Diversey. And just another idea of how things sometimes don't go as planned. So back into the city we go, fishing for perch and even trying to jig up some browns or possibly a steelhead. We were actually in Diversey Harbor in Chicago and punched our first couple holes, and Mike, our editor, decided to go ahead and drop a little white tube down. Didn't even tip it with a waxy, no meat whatsoever. We're getting stuff set up, punching holes. All of a sudden, his ice rod almost goes down the hole. We're thinking, what the heck? This has got the makings of a great day. Before we could even get cameras out and rolling, we had a perch on a little white tube jig on a 1/32 ounce head. No bait. We figured this was going to be an awesome day. But we were wrong. Here's a little perch right here through the ice. Just a miserable day downtown. The weather just wasn't cooperating. Those fish wanted a dead stick pattern. It's by no means an exciting way of fishing. It is literally doing nothing and not a very entertaining show. And unfortunately, just not many perch, and not many perch of any good quality size. They all seem to be a little on the small side. But we're still out there.
Perch there. Right in the top of the mouth. Beautiful.
We'll even let them keep the waxing.
Can't get any bigger ones. Actually, what we're doing here, when I'm actually running, it's actually a pretty popular bluegill jig, but it'll work for these perch as well. It's actually from Custom Jigs and Spins. It's called the Gill Getter, and it's a tungsten weight, so it's got a little more weight to it. And what's nice is there's still currents under the ice here, so having a little heavier jig is helping keep that jig in place. And like I said, we want to dead stick it just about a foot off the bottom. Try dead sticking.
Literally, I am setting my rod near the bottom, maybe about a foot off the bottom, my jig rather, placing it on a bucket, and I've got 2 rods going, one on the pier and one on my bucket, and just trying to watch which one I'm going to get a bite on first. The challenging part of this day was the currents that are under the ice. With the lighter ice jigs, they were constantly moving our jigs out of position, and they would lift them too far away. One of the few times we were just ill-prepared to be out there and dealing with this. If we could only had a heavier action. There we see the ninja in action waiting for that bite. My goodness, it was just light bites, and just not having the proper gear for this trip just didn't make it any easier, I'll tell you. Still had our tip-ups out trying to catch a brown or a steelhead as well. Missed them. Oh, it's going to happen here. We're going to get on them. It's going to get hot and heavy right here. Yep. Here we go. Don't fall asleep on us now.
So what we actually did is we kind of made a makeshift drop shot rig. And it's really simple. All we did is basically just like if you guys are tying up a drop shot rig, you're going to tie your little ice jig with a real long tag end. So when you tie your polymer knot, make sure you got plenty of room so you can do this little tag end, or longer tag end, and actually make a drop shot. Now again, I didn't bring drop shot weights with me, so what we did is we actually had a jig head, and I went ahead and cut the hook off with my cutters off of the jig head, so I was just running the lead weight.
So once again, folks, Diversey, not so good. It was just a very weird day out there, and I want to talk real quickly about those currents too that I mentioned. The thing with those currents, there's water that is being pushed in and out of the harbor. So literally, when the water comes in, you're going to have the water flow one way. When it goes back out, it flows the other. And we weren't prepared for it. I'd never seen in other harbors such as Montrose where we dealt with currents that strong. And literally, it's lifting our jigs off the bottom and taking them out of the strike zone. So that jig is like this, and then all of a sudden that current comes through and it's pushing it, it catches it. Well, we wanted it 10 inches to a foot off the bottom. Now it's being swung up, and we might be a foot and a half. You know, when it really was pulling, there was times my line was angled pretty sharply. And when that happens, we're just out of the strike zone. So the best thing we could have done was run a drop shot rig. Now, unfortunately, I don't take my Ranger, which I've always nicknamed my floating tackle box. Unfortunately, I don't take it with me everywhere I go. And lo and behold, my drop shot weights were in the Ranger. So what did we have to do? We had to find a way to make it work. So we showed you. We took that jig head and we went ahead, cut the hook off, and made a makeshift drop shot rig. And it worked. It was able to hold our bait in place near the bottom, and we're able to catch a few fish. With the weird weather patterns and temps and snow and everything else we've had, those fish weren't aggressive. They didn't want that bait moving. They wanted it sitting still. And the only way we could get it to sit still was to use a drop shot rig like that. So, versatility, even through the ice. You hear me talk about it a lot in open water. We have to find ways to be versatile and make things work, make the best of bad situations, even when we're ice fishing. So hopefully, if you don't take anything else away from this episode, it just kind of helps let you guys know there's other ways to do things. It may not be the proper way, it may not be the fanciest way, but you have to do what you have to do to get it done and catch fish. So we're going to have more great episodes coming from the ice. We're going to be trying to get some bigger fish for you too, show you some of the we might even get a little crazy on it and try for those pesky carp again through the ice. You never know what we're going to do. Our editor's going on vacation. Lucky guy. Is he going fishing? No! Come on, dude. You're the editor of a fishing show. Go fishing. Hey, whatever. Anyway, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. Once again, my name's Tony Krizek. We can't wait to see you back here next week on Tony's Spot on Fishing.